This new season of Apex took away a lot of rat spots with the reforged Kings Canyon, but it also introduced even more amazing rat spots that can give you easy RP. Stay tuned so you too can stay in the know with over 30 rat spots on the new Kings Canyon, spanning over the entire map. Let's dive into it. Starting off, we have this tiny pixel ledge on crash site, which is invisible from anywhere unless, I guess, underneath if you look up. You can get on top of this spot by climbing on top of this wall and then dropping over the edge while hugging said wall. This secret ledge is absolutely quintessential to staying alive just outside of crash site. You can get here by climbing this tiny cliff or using your legend abilities to get behind the trees and stay concealed by the leaves. This next spot is so obvious, yet I've never actually used it myself. I've actually passed through this area several times and never seen it. So anyways, when you are between Spotted Lake and Containment, there is this tiny cliff right by the choke point where you can just walk up to the edge of it and fall straight down into a hole, rendering you unable to be seen from the outside in. Next up is a spot that they'll never find you in. This tiny little spot on artillery right above the cave actually will keep you in the zone for several endings. And before you tell me, oh, you can only reach it with Valkyrie or with Pathfinder, you can actually take the balloon, land on the cliffs, then just take your tent out, sit back and grill some marshmallows. This next spot has been in the game probably for as long as the game's been out, but people still don't know about it. These rafters on the bunker style buildings in artillery or in repulsor actually can be climbed on, and you can sit there and just wait until someone runs by to get an easy kill. You can also place, for example, Pathfinder zipline to more easily make it all the way up there for you and your teammates, though this kind of gives you away, doesn't it? Another oldie but a goldie are these pipes in the artillery tunnel. Keep in mind that you're entirely visible from the artillery side, but nobody will think to check it if they're rotating in from the containment side. You can even get halfway behind this yellow pipe to make it even harder to see you, even from the artillery side. And if you're a movement legend, you can take it to the next level and get into this shady spot. Respawn remade the cliffs in this area with season 14, but forgot to remove this rat spot. If anything, it's even more difficult to get to now, but not impossible. To get up here, all you need to do is walk up to the cliffs and climb up, then set yourself in a snug angle inside of the bones right behind the leaves. Yet another spot around this middle junction is here on this small high ground on the westmost side. You can walk onto the ledge, squeeze yourself in behind the bone and actually hide inside of the shrubbery, making you impossible to see if someone just quickly checks the angle. This bone used to have a crazy good rat spot where you could hide inside of the hollow side on the left, but it was actually patched out this rework. That being said, you can climb up on the right hand side instead and get into a small crevice that makes you very hard to be seen unless they're looking straight at you. Moving on, slightly more to the east is a completely new rat spot that came with the rework of this general area. If you walk all the way back from this clip, you can actually climb up onto this ledge, and if you crouch, you won't be visible from anyone passing by. If you go even farther east, there's an incredibly strong rat spot under this broken bridge. It takes a little bit of climbing or movement abilities to get into, but once you get on top of this rafter, you can climb behind it and crouch, making you near impossible to find, even if someone is looking for you. And do you know what I'm looking for? You to hit the like button, so yeah, please do that. These pipes are some of the most OG rat spots on Kings Canyon, but that doesn't mean that they still aren't effective. Starting off, you can hide behind this pipe or climb upwards, just takes a little bit of finessing to get onto this pipe and then simply crouch to stay out of view. You can also continue climbing upwards to get onto these tiny red pipes along the other wall, which is perfect if you want to rat on a full team entering through the blast doors. But the pipe tomfoolery doesn't end there. You can also run to the westmost wall and climb onto these vents, then simply duck behind them. If you have a movement ability, you can also go all the way up on the southmost side of this and drop behind the big gray pipe, landing on a small ledge sticking out. If you ever find yourself stuck between a labs and a hydro dam, you should check out this little nook on the northmost side of the dam. It's pretty visible from the westmost side, but will help you from anyone who's directly above you or looking for the east or from the south. I love this cliff under the hanging house just west of Repulsor. It has several cliffs that can be climbed onto and bushes that you can crouch inside of. Every rat spot is automatically 100 times better if you can hide inside of a bush. This tiny crevice east of containment right underneath the northmost side of the bridge keeps you out of view from every angle except one. You can use this when escaping from teams, but try not to overstay if anyone is camping right above you. This next spot is a bit of a stretch, but hear me out. You won't be visible if you climb up this cliff and go all the way into this tiny nook. Anyone who looks at you from the outside or even climbs up won't be able to see you because of the bush in the way. You can actually get on top of this pipe right outside a bunker, and to do do so, you might need a movement legend, or like I mentioned previously, take the balloon and simply land right above it to then drop down onto this spot. And even though you're hiding in plain sight, nobody will look up and actually see you. This next spot is actually insane, especially keep in mind that there are several endings around these runways. Walk up to the edge right by the northmost runway and drop down onto the cliff, then drop down again, then run, slide and drop down again to then hit the ledge and climb up, and voila, you've climbed into this rat spot. In order to get out, you need to run and jump back onto the ledge. But be warned about this rat spot because you probably shouldn't go for it without a movement ability, just in case you slip off. I'm pretty sure this spot can only be reached with a movement ability, but that doesn't make it any less good. These cliffs are on the center of the map, just outside of Cage, has a ledge all the way on the top. And if you can make your way up there, almost nobody will be able to get you. The pit is absolutely ripe for different rat spots. Some are only accessible with movement abilities, such as this ledge by the northmost passage, but others are a bit easier to get to for any legend on the roster, such as this ledge on the northeast, where you can climb up and also hide behind the pipes. If you go across the pit, there is another ledge just like that one, which you can climb up to, and another set of pipes that you can hide behind. This next spot is insane, and it's an easy way to get away from any team, including pursuers on the rig. This is a Valkyrie only spot, and to get here you'll need to drop off the bridge, fly under it, and then get on top of this tiny ledge. This spot outside market is simple, but it will get them every time. You can use movement abilities to climb your way onto this ledge, allowing you to sit in the shadows in a place where most people don't look. This next spot is a throwback spot based on geometry that I mentioned earlier, dating all the way back to the game's first season. You can use movement abilities to get on top of this sign and then drop on the side of them to get onto these tiny ledges. Now don't mind the out of bounds warning, that's just on the very top. Moving on is this simple rat spot in the middle of the choke point right outside market. Just open a bin and climb behind it. Simple as that. Next up is one of my favorites of the rat spots that were added in season 14. The rafters on this rework ledge can easily be climbed into, and there's even some hanging foliage to make it even harder to spot. Definitely an S tier spot this season. Another brand new rat spot that came with the rework of the cage is this one right here. You can get into this either by climbing or by using mobility to get into the hole, then crouch hopping to get in all the way. You are still a little bit visible here, but nobody would expect you to be there in the first place. We lost the legendary top of rig spot with this new Kings Canyon update, but that doesn't mean that there still aren't ratting god spots. If you walk to the southmost edge of the rig, you can drop onto this silo and crouch underneath the walkway. Here is another useful spot on a ledge behind a tree, which is right outside of labs. Simply climb up these cliffs, then drop down onto this tiny ledge to be invisible from the outside looking in. This spot doesn't look that good at first, but wait until I drop down onto the ground. You can get to this spot by climbing up this cliff formation, and you're near impossible to spot from anyone on the ground below. This next spot is also an airbase, with a ledge that lets you get far from any possible line of sight. You're going to be safe hiding here as long as nobody takes the runway, though odds are they won't even think to look your way in the first place. You can easily get down to the ledges outside of the windows on these two bridges by Repulsor and the Artillery River. Another great spot, which you are guaranteed to stay hidden in, is right beneath that on the Repulsor side. Drop down to the river, walk under this staircase, and go all the way in. I don't even think they'll be able to get you if you get scanned. We're moving on with this spot by the rest beacon north of Skulltown. But before you do that, make sure that you are like the 14.7% of you guys watching and hit the subscribe button. It helps a lot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can climb onto these rocks and find yourself a snug hole that nobody can see from the outside. And let's not forget about this spot by the Artillery Tunnel, which can be reached by any movement abilities. If you guys are interested in seeing rat spots that were so good that they had to be removed from the game, check the video on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.